He is the very definition of country music.
If I had to pick one name and say that really truly is country in a nutshell, I think it would be Merle Haggard.
To his peers, he has set the standard.
When you say great, you got to put Merle in there. Legend, you got to put Merle in there.
To his fans, he has given voice.
He's the poet of the common man.
His rocky road to stardom took him from a boxcar to the Hall of Fame, with stops at the Big House and the White House. And he did it all without compromise.
The man is a maverick set to music.
That leaves only me to blame, 'cause mama tried.
He takes the stage without introduction. After nearly 40 years as one of country music's most influential singer-songwriters, Merle Haggard doesn't need or want one.
He said, I need the bottom, but it's over. I'm feeling in pain all the time.
To his audience, he's more than a hero. He's Hag, their nickname for the once troubled but now triumphant icon who sings of hard times, their times, his times.
Tonight, the bottom let me down. And let your memory come around.
Haggard's singing doesn't come from his throat. It comes from deep within. And it comes from a place that can only be filled by having lived what you sing. And he's lived it, man.
If you can imagine being born in a boxcar, escaping from 13 institutions before he's 18, spending 2 years and 9 months in San Quentin, lived in every hobo jungle in the country, and became Entertainer of the Year. I mean, that is a success story, isn't it?
Tonight, the bottom let me down.
Merle Ronald Haggard wasn't born in a boxcar, but rather in a Bakersfield, California hospital on April 6, 1937. 2 years earlier, his father James, a carpenter on the Santa Fe Railroad, mother Flossie, and 2 older siblings, Lillian and Lowell, migrated to California from Oklahoma after a fire had destroyed the family barn. The Haggards settled in Oildale, a town just outside Bakersfield, and where legend meets reality. For Merle and his family lived there in the now famous boxcar.
Living in a boxcar was a wonderful accident that occurred when a pioneer family woman of Bakersfield was looking for someone to build a house out of a boxcar on some property that she owned. And she met my parents, and they struck a deal. My dad had experience working at the railroad with boxcars, which made him a logical person.
The Haggards filled their modest boxcar home with music. James played guitar and fiddle in a group he formed with co-workers, and Flossie played organ at Sunday gospel gatherings. She had prayed when she was pregnant that Merle, whom she had named after a musician friend, would inherit the Haggard gift of song. It didn't take long to hear her prayer answered.
When he was an infant, and I mean an infant, not even sitting up, in his bassinet, if Mother turned the radio on and he heard what was called Western music at that time, his little feet would start keeping rhythm with the beat of the music. And we would change the station to a different kind of music. Nothing happened. Put it back on Western. The feet were going. Mother says, he has it. He's inherited it.
Illness marked Merle's boyhood. Valley fever, a respiratory condition, plagued him for several years, frequently keeping him out of school and confined to bed rest. Still, Merle considers his early childhood the most peaceful time of his life. During this mostly idyllic period, he grew especially close to his father. The two played ball and fished together. Beyond the fun they had, James Haggard made a serious impression on his son.
My dad worked 10 hours a day. He'd work those kind of hours, and then he'd come home, and then he'd have his evening meal. And he'd say, "Mom, you sit down and let me do the dishes," you know. And I thought, since I've been alive, I don't ever remember seeing a man do that for his wife. That's the kind of guy he was.
The close bond Merle shared with his father was broken forever when James died of a stroke in 1946. The loss devastated 9-year-old Merle and still lingers.
I was angry because I needed him. I needed his guidance then. And then when I finally did good, he wasn't here to applaud. And nobody else's applause meant as much as his did. I would have. His death was terrible. So that, until now, with all the things I've been through, it's probably was the most traumatic experience.
He did not understand why my father died. He somehow thought it was his fault. We did not understand that for many years. Unfortunately, we could have gotten help for him, but we didn't. We didn't know. We didn't realize what was going on in his head.
With his father dead, siblings out of the house, and mother working full-time as a bookkeeper to make ends meet, no one in his family was able to supervise Merle. Angry, confused, and left on his own, he began cutting school.
The counselor came to me one day and said, what do you think about us putting him in detention over the weekend? Maybe we can, frighten him into attending class. Well, he just said, I haven't done anything to deserve this, and promptly left, which started adding to his problems.
Merle became more rebellious and restless. He hopped freight trains and rode the rails until the police caught and sent him home. Ironically, as the son of a former railroad employee, he could have ridden for free. But 11-year-old Merle, in a rush to grow up, told his mother that anybody could ride with a pass. It took a real man to do what he did.
I always felt there was something just around the corner or just over the hill or that I was supposed to see. And I felt like a wild goose must feel. I don't know why or what I was running from or what I was running to. But I was in a hurry, always been in a hurry.
Merle was going nowhere fast. At 14, he began compiling a criminal record that included such offenses as truancy, passing bogus checks, grand theft auto, and driving stolen cars across state lines.
I didn't want to steal. I never felt like a thief. I never wanted anything. It wasn't mine, so I made some wrong moves in my early life, checking out what I wanted to do. And I wound up in some serious trouble.
Merle's escalating juvenile delinquency landed him in increasingly stricter youth facilities throughout California, a reminder of which is always close at hand.
When I was young and stupid, I did this tattoo, and I should have a good one on there for A&E, but it's PSI, Preston School of Industry. It's not Stanford by any means, and I wound up doing a couple of stretches there.
Merle's habit of entering institutions was matched only by his knack for escaping from them.
I thought, if they really think they're that slick, they're not. And I was out to show them that they weren't all that good at keeping kids locked up.
Throughout Merle's turbulent teens, his love of country music sustained him. His mother had always wanted him to develop his inherited talent, and she bought him a guitar, which he learned to play on the run during an escape from juvenile hall. Merle, then only 14, performed in public for the first time. He and a friend sang for $5 and all the beer they could drink at a Modesto bar. His heroes were country singers. He loved the authenticity of Jimmy Rogers, the Texas swing of Bob Wills, and most of all, the style of Lefty Frizzell.
If you got the money, honey, I got the time. We'll go home, get company now. We're gonna have a time. We'll make all the nights bounce, dance to the music fine. honey, I got the time.
Lefty was the forerunner of Elvis. He was the first guy to wear those rhinestones, and he was the first guy that came into the young people's world with hillbilly music. And he had this automatic, crowd-pleasing charisma, and I saw all of that. I saw the power that the man possessed.
Merle met his idol backstage at a Bakersfield club in 1953. Lefty was so impressed with the 16-year-old's talent that he told the club owner he wouldn't go on until Merle first sang a song. Reluctantly, the club owner agreed.
And the response was really good. So, it's like the guy that catches his first fish. You know, I was really the one that was hooked.
Merle was hooked on becoming a country singer, but his road to stardom would make a dramatic detour through San Quentin prison. In 1956, Merle Haggard, a 19-year-old fledgling country singer, married Leona Hobbs, a spirited 16-year-old beauty from a poor Bakersfield family.
Leona Hobbs was the first love of my life. She bare my first litter of children. I think she sincerely loved me. I think I sincerely loved her at the time. But our personalities were so far apart. And we didn't get any help out of either family, so we had no guidance.
Merle's unstable marriage only added to his problems. He struggled to make ends meet, toiling as a manual laborer in the oil fields and farms of Bakersfield during the week, and playing guitar in bar bands on the weekend. What he didn't earn, he stole, and he frequently got caught. By the time he was 20, Merle had spent nearly half his life either on the run from the law or behind bars. He fared no better as a new parent. While doing time for car theft, he missed the birth of his daughter Dana, the first of his 4 children with Leona.
Family life was not his deal. And he was not able to communicate his love physically as a young man, probably because that was the part of his life that he had his father with him, and for some reason he doesn't want to go there, that fear of being hurt.
A week before Christmas 1957, Merle, unemployed and beset with financial problems, hit bottom. He and a friend got drunk and attempted to break into a cafe they thought was closed. They thought wrong. Realizing it was actually open, they fled. The California Highway Patrol apprehended the would-be burglars and sent them to Kern County Jail. True to form, Merle escaped from the facility before exasperated authorities recaptured him.
They were mad at me. I'd busted out of this place and that place, and by the time I did that, I was on their list of incorrigibles. And I didn't know what the word meant yet.
As an incorrigible, Merle was sent to San Quentin Prison in March 1958. There he became inmate number A45200 and began serving a 5 to 15-year term. As usual, he planned to escape, but this time fellow inmates talked him out of it. After serving 18 months, his first parole request was denied. News that his wife Leona was pregnant with another man's child only made matters worse. Merle began brewing beer illegally in his cell. Soon after, guards arrested him for drunkenness and sent him to solitary confinement for 7 days.
All I had was a pair of pajama bottoms and a Bible. Didn't even have any top, just no socks, no undershirt, pajama bottoms. And they took your mattress away at 5 in the morning. So you're laying on cement and concrete for 7 days. And about the second day into that stay in isolation, I struck up a conversation with Carol Chessman.
Carol Chessman, also known as the Red Light Bandit, was one of San Quentin's most famous inmates. A convicted kidnapper and serial rapist, he'd been on death row for 10 years, filing appeals and writing books that brought him national attention. While in solitary, Merle never saw Chessman, but he conversed with him through a shared air vent.
I felt like I was talking to a celebrity, talking to somebody who hadn't killed anybody, They had no eyewitnesses, and he was a political prisoner. And I thought, you know, how easy that could occur for me.
Here's for all the ex-convicts.
After 8 stays of execution, Carroll Chessman died in the gas chamber on May 2nd, 1960. His death partially inspired one of Merle's most moving classics, Sing Me Back Home.
The warden led a prisoner down the hallway to his doom. And I stood up to say goodbye like all the rest.
You get that close to the gallows, and although you're not going to death, when you're sitting there beside somebody and talk to somebody, you see them go back and forth through the yard, and they say, hey, they killed him this morning. Well, it's, you know, it's just like you would think it would be.
Take me away and turn back years and sing me back home before I die.
I was incorrigible. They'd used the same description on me that they used on him, and I thought, you know, you might better change your locality and maybe get into another area of life, because it's really pretty dangerous right here.
Sing me back home before I die. Sing me back home before I die.
After his encounter with Chessman, Merle resolved to rehabilitate himself.
I got tired of it. I got tired of being something I didn't have to be. I didn't have to be in jail. I knew I had enough sense to get out. And all of a sudden, I started to want to be free, and I wanted to be respected and all that.
Merle knew that if he was ever going to get out of prison, he'd have to impress the parole board. He volunteered for the toughest jobs at San Quentin. He also took high school equivalency courses and played in the prison's country band. Johnny Cash provided Merle an encouraging example when he put on a show there. Cash had had his own run-ins with the law and had himself spent a few nights in jail on his way to stardom.
Johnny Cash was a link between the same kind of life that I lived. He was walking proof of the fact it could be done, and I wasn't really all that knocked out with him until I saw him perform.
At Merle's second parole hearing, the board gave him a 5-year sentence. The 2 years, 9 months in prison he had already served, plus 2 years, 3 months on parole. He left San Quentin in November 1960 and never set foot in a prison again, except to perform. Returning to Bakersfield, Merle moved back in with Leona despite their strained relations and worked as a ditch digger for his brother, an electrical contractor. At night he sang and played guitar in the honky-tonks of Beer Can Hill, the hub of the city's burgeoning music scene, led by Buck Owens.
Bakersfield music in the 60s had more of an edge to it than the Nashville music. Buck Owens was the first really to use those electrified Fender solid body guitars. He got a lot of criticism from the Nashville establishment. Bakersfield music had a beat to it. It had a heavy Western swing influence. Those guys grew up listening to Bob Wills. His music was a combination of jazz and country music. You could listen to it or you could dance to it.
After taking second place in a talent contest, Merle was in demand all over town, playing 7 nights a week and making enough money playing music to quit ditch digging. Merle's growing popularity led to a contract with Talley Records, a small local label owned by Louis Talley and Fuzzy Owen.
I heard him singing, and I thought, boy, that's the best damn singer I ever heard, you know. He's a singer. He's phrasing is good. Pronunciation's real good. Some people's got it, some people don't have it. Some people never have it, like me.
What Owen did have was a studio. There, Merle would begin one of the most illustrious recording careers in country music. By 1962, Merle Haggard, a parolee-turned-performer, had developed a loyal following in the Bakersfield club scene, but had yet to claim national attention. That would change after a trip to Las Vegas. Merle traveled there to see singer Wynn Stewart's club show, and through a chance meeting with the headliner, became his band leader.
That probably was the biggest turning point for me. I stepped light years ahead of when I went from the Oildale, Bakersfield guy that played guitar around there. I went to the big leagues, don't you see, when I stepped to Vegas.
Playing with Stewart helped Merle develop his stagecraft and boost his confidence as a musician. His absence from home, however, continued to take a toll on his already fragile marriage to wife Leona.
She did not understand his interest in music and was too young to. Later on, had they been older, that might have been different. But at that time, for him to go on the road, be gone, that was not good for her. It was just really difficult.
Merle played with Stewart for a year, then quit to get away from a ruinous gambling habit. Before he left, Stewart gave him a tune to record, Sing a Sad Song. Released in 1963 as Merle's debut single on the Tally label, it rose to number 19 on the Billboard Country chart. Merle followed its success with other releases, most notably All My Friends Are Gonna Be Strangers, which in 1965 became his first top 10 hit and earned him the Academy of Country Music's Most Promising New Star Award. But while Merle's career was on the rise, his marriage to Leona descended into domestic violence.
It was horrible for a child to witness it. It was real physical on both parts. My dad's not proud of it, but there was physical abuse on both parts. I seen blood, I seen horrible things from those two.
Merle sought solace in Bonnie Owens, Buck Owens' ex-wife and a singer on the Bakersfield scene. She and Merle had recorded a duet, Just Between the Two of Us, a top 30 hit in 1964. The song's title could have easily alluded to the growing personal and professional harmony between them.
Unbeknownst to me, I was falling in love with Bonnie Owens. She and I were touring together, and she was older than I was. She was so beautiful, so wonderful, and so much what I needed at the time. She was there for me. So it would have been pretty hard not to have had some feelings for someone like that.
I always felt like his big sister, because I'm older than him, and I still do feel like his big sister. We still talk like that.
Merle divorced Leona and in 1965 married Bonnie. The change began a time of healing and reconciliation between Merle and his children.
Bonnie was the person who showed him how to be affectionate, how to love. She would coach him. I would hear her go, Merle, now you go over there and you hug that girl. She brought us together, and we began to develop a relationship, and I began to see a different man I didn't know.
The beneficial changes in Merle's personal life paralleled key developments in his career. He left the small-time Tally label for a major one, Capitol Records, and he formed his own backing band, The Strangers, considered among the finest sidemen in country music.
Being a stranger, to me, brings a lot of prestige along with working with Merle, because most people in the industry, especially musicians, always know that Merle has a great band. And I think a lot of the people that come to see Merle probably enjoy the band just as much as they do Merle singing. And that's kind of a compliment, actually.
With The Strangers backing him, Merle surged to the forefront of the country scene. In 1966, he won the Academy of Country Music's Top Male Vocalist Award. The following year, Merle achieved his first #1 song, I'm a Lonesome Fugitive.
The Fugitive was not my song. It was Liz Anderson's song. And I wanted to write something close to it as a follow-up. Singers come and go and poets last forever. And I knew it was important that I write.
The Fugitive's runaway success and its closeness to his own story encouraged Merle to get more personal with his songwriting and turn his tarnished past into solid gold.
I'd like to hold my head up, be proud of who I am, but they won't let my secret go untold.
In 1967, Merle released his first self-penned #1 record, Branded Man.
Now I'm the branded man out in the cold.
My head must have been in a spin. You know, all I can recall is that I knew I was on my way, and it was very exciting.
Determined I would rise above the shame.
This was the first solid across-the-board #1 thought, you know. And so it meant that it was a real possibility. And then we had a streak of them.
Now I'm the branded man out in the cold. Now I'm the branded man out in the cold.
Merle's streak of #1 singles in the 60s culminated with a tune that would become his signature song and his most controversial recording. In the 60s, Merle Haggard emerged as a major singer-songwriter who dominated the country music scene as few other artists ever have. The success of Branded Man, his first self-penned #1 record, began a string of chart toppers that owed their success in part to the realism Merle drew on from his own life. His streak of #1 songs during the 60s culminated with Okie from Muskogee, his first attempt at social commentary.
We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. We don't take our trips on LSD.
Merle and I talked about the words marijuana and some of the words in the song. If we could just get it played, we knew the song had it. So we just put it out and it took off.
Released in 1969, the song quickly became an anthem for the silent majority. Those Middle Americans whose patriotism and traditional values were under attack from Vietnam War protesters and hippies.
We don't let our hair grow long and shaggy like the hippies out in San Francisco do. And I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee, a place where even squares can have a ball.
It's telling the truth. And I guess a lot of rednecks wanted to hear something on their side for a change. And I think all the country fans were glad to hear someone stand up for the square guy.
In the wake of the strong public reaction to the song, Merle was asked to endorse the politics of George Wallace, but he refused, causing some to question his true point of view.
I think it was some argument over whether or not I was singing from the shoulder, or was it tongue-in-cheek? Was that the issue? No. There was the issue of pride of Middle America versus the youthful attitude that was prevalent in the country at that time. Somehow or another, out of that came a song that was maybe more from the soul of my father, maybe. It was like what I think maybe he would have said had he been around still working for the railroad, and that's where I was writing from.
We still wave old glory down at the courthouse, golly, and white line Oklahoma, USA.
Whether it was a cause of controversy or a celebration of conformity, Okie from Muskogee cinched Merle's stardom. The song crossed over to the top 50 on the pop chart and earned him every important honor in his field, including the Country Music Association's Entertainer of the Year Award for 1970. Merle's transformation from San Quentin incorrigible to the king of country music especially moved his brother-in-law, William G. Ray. He had connections to Michael Deaver, an aide to then California Governor Ronald Reagan.
My husband decided that he would approach Michael about a pardon for Merle because he was there all during Merle's difficulties, and he knew that he really did not have a criminal intent or criminal mind, and he did not need to have this record. So he spoke to Michael, and through Michael to Governor Reagan, and through him he received full pardon, which pleased us greatly.
I became the youngest man in the state of California to ever receive an unconditional pardon. I wish that Ronald Reagan had the health to understand how much I thank him for that. I got to thank him before his mind went away.
The pardon, issued in March 1972, cleared Merle's criminal record. Governor Reagan was not the only elected official impressed with Merle. The following year, President Nixon declared him his favorite singer and invited Merle to perform at the White House for the birthday celebration of his wife, Pat.
I don't know exactly what to say, except I know that this will probably be the greatest evening of my life.
Though he now counted the nation's elite among his biggest fans and had become one of the richest and most famous country performers, Merle didn't care for being a celebrity, and still doesn't.
Haggard has absolutely no interest in being a star. He's concerned only with being a musician. Music is his soulmate, as it were. He credits music with saving his life and says he would have stayed in his life of crime had he not made it music. The music never stops with him.
Merle's prolific output reflects his commitment to his music. From 1971 through 1985, he released a constant stream of hits, 28 of which went to #1. Through it all, Merle never strayed from who he was or his core audience. People from modest circumstances trying to make it through the best way they knew how.
His songs are very much about the working man and the average guy on the street, and the people like him because he's their voice.
That voice would earn Merle election into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Merle Haggard's rise from a convict with a criminal record to a star with gold records was a classic country music success story. But the flip side of Merle's professional triumph was his failure to sustain harmony in his personal life. For a man who wrote such hits as Ramblin' Fever, it was no surprise that his domestic relationships suffered from his restlessness and career demands. Merle's cheap thrills included drinking and drugging and led to a series of costly divorces. In 1975, he split from second wife, Bonnie Owens. Though they had made beautiful music together, most notably duetting on the classic Today I Started Loving You Again, she knew their marriage would end.
It's one of those things that I expected any day, and that wasn't really a big surprise to me. And when he found somebody else, it was just one of those things, you know. And I wasn't even bitter about it because I expected it.
2 more failed marriages followed Merle's divorce from Bonnie Owens, including one to Leona Williams, one of his former backup singers. After 4 trips down the aisle, it seemed as if Merle would never settle down. Merle has finally found that understanding, love, and encouragement with his 5th wife, Teresa Lane, a woman 23 years his junior, whom he married in 1993.
It took a long time for me to find somebody that had a sense of humor and was good looking and was smart and all those things. And there was a gap of time difference in our age, and she didn't care, and I was complimented. So
Well, when I met him, I really didn't know anything about his history. I didn't really know hardly anything at all. My mother had talked me into going to one of his shows. I was a rock and roller. And, but it was love at first sight, to say that much.
When Merle and Teresa decided to have children, their decision in part reflected Merle's desire to make up for his neglect of his first family. His good intention, however, was met with initial opposition by his eldest daughter.
When I found out that Teresa was going to have a baby, I was jealous, I was mad, and I didn't understand why. And I went to him and I said, Dad, I don't understand these feelings. And he cried and he held me and he said, Dana, please don't deny me the right to have children and love them the way they're supposed to be loved, like you love your children. Don't deny me that. And at that moment, it was gone. I understood what he was doing, and he's a good father to us now. And he's a good father to those kids.
Those kids are daughter Janessa and son Benny. Merle considers them a godsend. Loving them has given him the chance to become the parent he missed.
You know, my father, again, was my idol, and I never thought that I ever even came close to living up to the kind of dad he was, and still, that's the same thought I live for now, is I want to be, in Benny's and Janessa's eyes, what my dad was for me.
The joys of parenthood the second time around were somewhat dampened by the state of Merle's business affairs. At the birth of his son, Benny, creditors served Merle with papers, suing him for failure to pay his debts and forcing him to declare bankruptcy. His losses due to mismanagement, bad investments, gambling, and alimony added up to millions.
Now it's changed. We've structured his organization that he knows where everything is. He gets his weekly reports. He's the only one that signs his own checks now, and that's what it should be, and he's on top of things now.
And I can't say how proud I am to be the person to call him up here to become a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. Merle Haggard.
While Merle dealt with bankruptcy, his wealth of artistic achievements, including 38 #1 hits, earned him election into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1994.
Thanks to everybody. Reba, all of you, you're doing a great job, and I'm so proud to be part of the Country Music Hall of Fame.
It's a double-edged sword, you know. It's like, this is it, go away, don't bother us anymore. And then again, it was the greatest honor of all of my career. It's a marker. It means everything is probably behind me. At least other people seem to think that it is.
The thing about Merle that I feel that he doesn't understand is that he's more loved and more talented than he thinks he is. And I just always felt that he didn't believe in his genius, and maybe didn't think that those people out there loved him as much as they do.
Among those people who love Merle are many current performers who have expressed their admiration for him by recording not one, but 2 tribute albums of his material. Just as Merle acknowledged on record his debt to his heroes, so too have these younger artists recognized their heroes' influence on them.
Gosh, you just don't find many writers that really write their own music, and I love that he has done that, and that it's always been a reflection of his lifestyle. And he's also an artist that is stuck with music and believed in music and artistry more than he's believed in the industry. And that kind of thing is rare to find. He's sort of the real deal. He is sort of one of the last great troubadours.
Merle's a legend because his songs are important to everybody. I mean, I could sit here and rattle off song after song after song, and to anybody that grew up on that stuff, it's just like, oh my God. Yeah, I get it. It's country music.
First thing I remember doing was a lonesome whistle blowing and a youngin's dream of growing up right on a freight train leaving town, not knowing where I'm bound. No one could changed my mind, but Mama tried.
Though Merle turned 63 in April 2000, he's far from retiring. He still takes to the road, playing as many as 75 dates a year. His bond with his fans remains strong because he's always seen himself in them. And they know that every time Hag takes the stage, it's not just a performance, it's an affirmation of his own survival.
I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. Oh, what could steer me right? My mama tried to raise me better. Repeating I denied, that leaves only me to blame, 'cause mama tried.
He served his social apprenticeship behind bars, where one learns the art of survival, or one dies. You're always living by your wits. And it made him so incredibly resilient that he has just bounced back and back and back through multiple marriages, through bankruptcies, through career highs and lows. But, hey man, when the war starts and this whole thing is blown up, after the smoke clears, two things will still be in place: weeds and Merle Haggard.
Dear old daddy, rest his soul, left my mom a heavy load. She tried so very hard to fill his shoes.
I really don't have many regrets at all, even the bad places I had to go. It's kind of like a guy, after the war is over and you make it through the experience, you wouldn't give your life for it. You know, there's no way to explain what all I've gained, and hopefully in wisdom.
And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right. But mama tried to raise me better. But if bleeding I denied, that leaves only me to blame, 'cause mama tried. Yeah, mama tried.